I appreciate everything that he's did for the university. He got them through some pretty hard times. I think he had the quote right where he said it was toxic before he got there. The environment was toxic. I know some people kind of took some exception to that. He's not wrong though. Like we all know that. Like, we all knew that the environment prior to Brady Cook getting there was not great. So he kind of righted the ship, was able to go through those bumps, through those potholes, and come out on the other side. Statistically, one of the best quarterbacks in Missouri history, which I think is kind of impressive and speaks to Brady Cook as a guy, as a whole.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
It's Mizzou That's Who here on KC Sports Network. I'm your host, Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Maggie Johnson. We're back about a week after Missouri played their bowl game. Look, holiday season. I know Maggie is in Nashville. We were driving back from Nashville. I immediately went out of town again right after Nashville. So I've been on the road. Maggie, you've been sick. You've been getting better from getting sick. So it's been a minute since we've had a podcast, but we're back. Gonna wrap it up. Gonna give you some portal updates. Gonna put a nice little bow on season. What is it? Season 3 of Mizzou That's Who?
Yeah, season 3. Time flies when you're having fun.
It does indeed. We're gonna put a bow on it today. But Maggie, let's start with the bowl game. How was your Nashville travel experience? How was the game for you?
I had a blast. I actually ran into a lot of, obviously a lot of Mizzou fans because everyone is out on Broadway, but I met some people that I had never met before, saw some people that I knew. So just getting to play, and I know we talked about this, that this was like the ideal location for a bowl game if a bowl game's not really going to matter. Totally. That's exactly what it was. I mean, it was the Sunday night. I keep saying everything's Saturday because I just associate the game with Saturday. I'm just like, oh yeah, and when I was in Nashville on Saturday. So Sunday night when we got there, the weather was great. I wore like shorts or something, like, so it was like very nice out. Then the game day was, I know if you were in the Iowa side, like it was a little bit colder, but I was in the sun. Like the whole game was like 65 and sunny the entire game. So I had a blast. Hopefully everybody else listening had a blast, and we got the W.
Did indeed. As Maggie mentioned, yes, I was on the Iowa side. My uncle is an Iowa alum. He's an Iowa booster. He hosts the Iowa alumni events. And so like that was the side of things that I was involved in. Me and my buddy were about the only two Mizzou fans within probably a 5-section radius of where we were at. It was definitely an interesting experience and not necessarily an experience I would have put myself through again. If Mizzou would have lost, it probably would have been a lot worse, obviously. But from no one around me knowing what targeting was to, granted, that was a very poorly officiated
game. The refs didn't know what targeting was.
The refs didn't know either, but every hit was targeting, according to the people around.
Or roughing the passer. We had
yes,
2 roughing the passer calls. That was pretty weak.
I've never done this in the game before, probably because, they play in the SEC, so I don't have to look up which officiating crew they're dealing with. But I was like, what officiating group is this? Where are they from? Is the ACC officiating group?
I thought it was.
Yeah, and I was like, thank goodness Missouri doesn't play in that conference because these officials stink out loud. They got to figure some stuff out too, because I do think there were some pretty soft calls on the hits out of bounds on both of Missouri's and on Iowa's side. The Brady Cook sliding and then him getting landed on, is that a penalty technically by the rule? But I don't know. Like that's soft there. The roughing the passer, the calls that Missouri got called on, incredibly soft as well. So it's like not a very well officiated game on either side of the coin. But no, I kind of got it from all angles as Missouri was going down there. And then actually, Maggie, when that 4th down play happened kind of at the end of the game, I was almost right down on the line of scrimmage. Like the line of scrimmage was almost directly in front of me. And it almost looked like the Iowa false started and it didn't get called because it looked like some guys jumped. The ball got there late to the Sullivan, their quarterback, and he just kind of had to try to find a hole. It just didn't look right. But nevertheless, good to Missouri to be on the winning side of that. I had my little cousins crying next to me after Missouri won, so that felt.
You hate to see it. Some people were also arguing that maybe Mizzou was offsides on that call. It's hard to tell. I think they were saying about where they were lined up, but it's kind of hard to tell on that video replay, kind of where the guy's hands were, so or where the lineman's hands were. So, I mean, I'm just gonna take it for what it was. It was a bowl game. We got to 10 wins.
Yeah.
What really? I mean, does it feel like we maybe won 10 games this season? I don't know, which is kind of crazy to say because I was begging for 6 wins in 2022, and now we're sitting here like, is it disappointing to only have 10 wins? I mean, I'm happy with it because we've only done it back-to-back 10-win seasons,
Yeah.
now 3 times. But maybe just not what we expected, but still getting the bowl win. If you're on the winning side, bowl games maybe matter. The record bowl games matter. If you're on the losing side, they don't matter as like you want to, discredit them a little bit. We've been on both sides many times, obviously with players sitting out in the Armed Forces Bowl, players sitting out in the Gasparilla Bowl. Like we've experienced that too. I think the sit-outs were pretty even in this game. They had Caleb Johnson sitting out, who will be a decent draft pick. I'm assuming he's one of the better running backs. And going into the NFL draft, we had Luther Burden out. I would actually say that Iowa's rushing attack,
They look pretty damn good.
it was the best part of their game, to be honest with you. Their issues, were their secondary, and it showed. Like our wide receivers ate all day, but no, they're rushing. We really couldn't stop them from doing whatever they want. I don't even know why they tried to go through the air at all, to be honest with you.
That first drive, though, they had a lot of success through the air, which was very surprising when they came out there. It was, those scripted plays. You have a month to come up with a script for a game against a team. So, I hope your opening script does well, right? Missouri forced to punt on their opening script, but then they come down and score a touchdown on their next drive. So it's whatever. I do think that the way that the game went, Iowa was in front. I mean, they had a halftime lead.
Was it?
Yeah, it was 10 at halftime, I believe.
Yeah.
And they were in the driver's seat, and they just kind of let Missouri sneak back in at the defense. I think Missouri really stepped up, and that's really what helped. As the defense of Missouri played really well down the stretch. At one point,
Blake Craig. We got our Craig the leg now. I feel like he's I finished that first season really turning into a little Mevis there.
I like it. Liberty North kid. So a kid from the Kansas City area, Liberty North, won state championship last year. I believe they made it to the semifinals with him as a senior, but I think he's a freshman this year technically because he redshirted last year. Is kind of how it works. So he's a redshirt freshman. Set all kinds of freshman kicking records for the Missouri team this year, which very impressive from him. A couple of those there, I was worried about trotting them out there to try to see if we can try a 56-yarder. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this one, but at that point, again, the defense playing well, you trust your kicker. The defense kind of settled in, really locked in there in that second half to kind of let Iowa do nothing. Like Iowa couldn't do anything in the second half there. Johnny Walker getting after the quarterback. They couldn't run the ball very well, and that's really all they were doing. But at one point, Maggie, I had tweeted out, is Caleb Johnson a system running back? Because they were running the ball so well. It was like, hey, is this just the system he's in that makes him good? But I think Caleb Johnson's a very good football player. I don't want to get it construed. I'd be very okay if he landed on the Kansas City Chiefs in a mid round. But I think he's a very good football player. Maybe some of those runs that Iowa did have that didn't get broken for big touchdowns would have gotten broken with Caleb Johnson. But overall, good day in Nashville. And Blake the Craig. Craig the leg. Blake Craig, very impressive performance from the freshman.
Yeah, I love seeing that, especially from the young guys. I love seeing what Marquise Johnson did. He had a massive day. I don't remember 7 receptions for 122 yards. Theo Weiss had 5 receptions for 75 yards and didn't even play in the second half. So,
right.
I mean, it was a great day for the young guys. Not so much rushing wise, but Brady Cook led Mizzou's rushers with 54 yards. This is another thing where when I was kind of talking about is 10 wins, is it a little bit of a letdown? Seeing a healthy Brady Cook, makes you kind of wonder that what if a little bit more because yeah, he only went, let's see what he went 18 for 32, which is, not terrible, not amazing, but you wanted to see him do that in some of those other games where he didn't. And I think, having that month off to really heal, put him in that position to have a good bowl game. I think he was the highest graded quarterback out of bowl season thus far.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet.
Or maybe fourth or something.
Yeah, I saw a tweet that actually this stuff doesn't matter, right? I want to preface this by saying it doesn't matter. But now Brady Cook's upgraded card and EA College Football 25 Ultimate Team is now the highest rated quarterback in the game.
Maybe that's what I'm talking about. That was like number 1 in the game, and then I think he was like the 4th highest graded in bowl games or something crazy like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. But still, Brady Cook that we kind of yearned for in the middle of the season, and it turns out, this has been the story with Brady Cook, and maybe we could talk about Brady Cook's legacy here a little bit too, because this was his final game as a Missouri Tiger. Kind of put the team on his back. Had an Iowa fan in front of me he told me, your quarterback reminds me of Lamar Jackson. And I said, let's cool it there. That's not it. That's not the comparison. I thought that was funny. But Brady Cook getting it done on his, and we've talked about this all the time, Maggie. When Brady Cook can get things done on the ground, he really seems like he can settle into the passing game a whole lot more. And you saw that here firsthand. Again, only 54 yards on the ground, but he was taking advantage of over aggressive rushers from Iowa. It was really a great performance from him, a good one to go out on if you are Brady Cook. And his legacy, I think, is going to be a little bit confusing for Missouri fans. I think it'll be better the further we get away from this, because I think a lot of Missouri fans, at least the ones that I talk to, appreciate Brady for what he did, but are a little disappointed by what could have been, right? Like with Luther Burden, like this year could have been a really big year for Luther Burden, a Heisman contending year for Luther Burden, and a lot of people put that on Brady Cook that it wasn't, right? I mean, you got to give him the football. Like that's kind of a big reason. Like for a wide receiver, you got to give him the football. And we've been talking about it for the 3 years that Luther Burden's been in Mizzou. The quarterback play, like that's been a big thing. It's like, hey, you got to get him the football somehow. You got to get him the football, and they did a really good job last year getting him the football. And this year was, I think, a lot of things. I think there was a lot of different factors that go into why Luther Burden didn't get the ball as much this year as maybe we would have all liked him to. Is it Brady Cook? Some, yeah. Is it the play calling? Some, yeah. Is it the defense is taking Luther Burden out of it? Yeah. I think all of those kind of go into the same pot. But I do think his legacy, much like James Franklin, Maggie, as you've pointed out before, I think people will view him very similarly to James Franklin the further we get away from this era.
Yeah, I mean, look at the teams that have led us to double-digit wins, or the quarterbacks that have led us to double-digit wins. Yeah, you're looking at James Franklin. Obviously, you have Chase Daniel, who did that. But, yeah, you're looking at James Franklin. You're looking at Brady Cook. Yeah, Maggie Mock. You're looking at quarterbacks that maybe weren't like the sexy quarterback, but were the guys that laid it all on the line, and the guys that opened up your game, because that's what Brady Cook does when he's healthy. He opens up your game a lot. And yeah, are we disappointed a little bit that Luther Burden didn't have the season quite like we wanted him to? Sure. But who Luther Burden was allowed us to win 10 games. Like, he didn't have to get 1,200 yards. Because, look at guys like T-Mac at Arizona. He's projected top 3, top 5 pick. He wasn't in the finalists for Heisman. And that's because it's so hard for a wide receiver to win. If a quarterback puts a wide receiver in a position to be the Heisman, that quarterback is probably going to be what's considered the Heisman, or like a Heisman front runner on the team. So I'm grateful for everything Brady did. I'm grateful for everything Luther did. I think they will continue to be advocates for the University of Missouri their entire careers. Obviously, we know what Luther Burden's probably looks like. Not quite sure what Brady Cook's is going to look like. Yeah. But I don't doubt that they will be those recruiters for, those internal recruiters for the University of Missouri.
Brady was everything that you don't see in college athletics too. Like now in today's college athletics, we just saw a kid commit to Cal for a really long time. and then he flipped on signing day to Oregon, and then he was there for a month, Maggie, and then he transferred back to Cal.
Absolutely crazy. And when I read about that, it was crazy.
He's not the only one. Like that's not the only.
Look at Jaden. Look at Jaden Rashada.
Jaden Rashada, Bear, the guy from USC in Georgia, and where's he at now? Oregon. He went to 4 high schools before he got to college, and now he's going on his 3rd school in 4 years in college. So, like, Brady Cook is everything that college athletics isn't anymore. And I think that to have a Brady Cook at a university is so rare in 2025, 2024. It's so rare that you kind of have to appreciate Brady for what he was in that regard of things. Like in an era where he could have went and he could have transferred to Indiana and then Bowling Green, right? Like he could have transferred somewhere to get some more playing time and maybe have been more appreciated. He stuck to where he had an actual love for the university. A lot of these, I'm not saying that these players don't commit because they love the university. They very much could. Like we saw Darius Robinson, he walked out with Mizzou on his back last year, right, for senior day. I do think these guys do love the university eventually. I think they come to love the university. Brady Cook committed to the University of Missouri. He did not commit to a coaching staff. He did not commit to a program idea or like a specific coach, a specific player, a scheme. He didn't commit to that. He committed to the University of Missouri. You don't see that. Like that does not happen. Like maybe it happens at Notre Dame, right? Maybe kids still want to play for the Golden Dome and have touchdowns. Maybe that is, I think that's more prominent probably in the 60s than it is today. But I think that is what I appreciate most out of Brady is that he loved the University of Missouri as much as the thousands of fans in the stands love the University of Missouri. And I think that that's where I've kind of landed on Brady Cook's legacy of I appreciate everything that he's did for the university. He got them through some pretty hard times. I think he had the quote, right, where he said it was toxic before he got there. The environment was toxic. I know some people kind of took some exception to that. He's not wrong, though. Like, we all know that. Like, we all knew that the environment prior to Brady Cook getting there was not great. So he kind of righted the ship, was able to go through those bumps, through those potholes, and come out on the other side. Statistically, one of the best quarterbacks in Missouri history, which I think is kind of impressive and speaks to Brady Cook as a guy, as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at like Brady Cook's family too. Like they were very involved in the NIL game, not just with Brady. They were involved in the NIL game with Luther Burden. I mean, there were multiple athletes that were, promoting, what some of their companies sell. So you're gonna miss a guy like Brady. I know some people are gonna argue that and whatever, but you miss as a fan who loves your university, all you can ask of them is to love your university. And they don't typically love your university. They typically love football and they typically love money. And like, those are the two things right now. But you just have to respect what he did. And we're going to talk a little bit about, some of our favorite moments from 2024. And I'd be hard pressed not to say that he was involved in multiple of them.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a break. Maggie, as you kind of alluded to, you got some questions for us. We got some portal updates we'll hit before we get to those questions and kind of round out season 3 of Mizzou That's Who. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Welcome back into Mizzou That's Who here, wrapping up season 3 of the pod before we take a little bit of a break. Obviously, we'll have breaking news podcast for you if people do commit or anything like that. We'll have you covered here at KC Sports Network. We do appreciate that. Go follow our new Twitter account, by the way, at KCSN Mizzou. We'll get you caught up to date there as well. If you need any of the quick hitting nuggets, we got you covered there. Go follow us there on Twitter. But Maggie, let's talk a little bit about the transfer portal since the last time that we spoke. Missouri's adding some defenders. And look, after they added Bo Pribula, we knew that the defense was going to be kind of paramount, and specifically the secondary was going to be a position of need. Cornerback, they kind of got safety figured out, but cornerback really was the position going into it that they needed to, and they are able to do that. They signed Stephen Hall from Washington State. a corner there that 24/7 has an 0.85 grade on 3-star guy, and Jalen Cantillon as well, a very highly touted guy, a guy who had some. Look, we do a draft guide here at KC Sports Network every year, and we've been watching Jalen for a couple years now of him anticipating of him to come out, and he hasn't came out. And I like everything that he brings to the table there for the secondary. Two big guys for the secondary, Maggie, as they kind of close in on the this last little stretch here of the transfer portal.
It's always interesting whenever you get guys like Jaden Catalan or is it Cantillon? Is there an N in there? Cantillon?
There's no. It's Catalon,
Yeah.
so it must be Catalan.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. He played at Arkansas, so we played at one of your rival schools, and actually Arkansas was really upset whenever he left because of the promise that they saw in him. He obviously then went and played for Barry Odom at UNLV. Barry Odom left, and then he entered the transfer portal. Very excited about him. Obviously, safety and corner were our biggest liabilities, I would say. We gave up multiple busted coverage touchdowns and things like that, especially early on in the season. So it's good to kind of be stepping that up, because I think our linebackers and D-line has kind of gotten worked out a little bit early on in that portal, and we get guys back from injury. So I'm pretty excited about what they're doing on defense. He's going out there and he's getting his guys, and they're wanting to come play. And like out of the 4-second, we've added 3 safeties in a corner, which we might still add another corner just because of the depth there. It was really weak this year with just Toriano Pride, Deloach, and Drayden Norwood. So we might add another corner still. But like, you've got guys that have played Power 4 football. The only one that hasn't is the safety that came over from NIU. And I mean, NIU put it to Notre Dame. So I mean, you're just excited about the caliber of guys that Drink is getting. And they want to be a part of that D-line, that defense that we're building at Mizzou.
Mizzou did have Dalen Carnell say he is coming back. That is huge for them, especially in their secondary. Him coming back makes this defense a lot more scary. I believe Corey Flagg is going to the NFL draft. Just trying to think off the top of my head here. There was a flurry of NFL draft announcements. Nothing I don't think that was too out of the ordinary.
The running backs.
Yes,
obviously.
Both running backs are going to the draft. They only had 1 year left anyway.
Yeah, Marcus Bryant.
That's right.
But so yeah, basically everybody that you kind of expected.
There's nobody there that I think the two, when you go on College Football 25 and they say you can kind of persuade people to stay, I think the only one we were really thinking about was Dalen Carnell. Like, that was the big one there, DC. And, we talked about this, Maggie, I think last year when I was at the Shrine Bowl and we got to see, I saw Ennis Rakestraw there, even though he wasn't supposed to be there. He was still there. We got to talk to him for a little bit. He was training down there in Dallas, kind of at the Sports Authority at the Star as well. I asked him, I'm like, hey, who's the next guy that we should be watching for? Everyone said Dalen Carnell. Darius Roberts at the Combine. I asked him, hey, who's the next Mizzou guy? Dalen Carnell. They're all saying Dalen Carnell. And look, stand for another year. It's good for Missouri. I think it's going to be good for him and his draft stock ultimately, too. I don't think there was a ton of buzz around him. But now he can build that draft stock more. Marquise Johnson, as you mentioned, huge game against Iowa. Looked phenomenal. He says he's coming back for another year. That'll be good. I'm very excited for his year next year as well. So they're looking pretty strong. You mentioned the linebackers. They get Makai Bayer. Remember, we figured that one out.
So we don't have to say it again.
Makai Bayer.
Or tell people how to say it.
Josiah Trotter was a big one as well.
Oh, yeah, West Virginia.
So then they added Nate Johnson as well from App State. App State's been pretty darn good to Missouri recently. I know that who was it? DJ. Oh gosh, the co-defensive coordinator from Missouri.
Oh,
is now the defensive coordinator at App State. So Missouri kind of returning the favor a little bit, right? I guess you can have a defensive coordinator from us, but Mose Phillips as well committed just before a couple days before actually the Mizzou bowl game. Another safety there. You already mentioned Santana Banner. They do get an offensive lineman as well on the 28th. Johnny Williams the fourth. You don't see the fourth running around a whole lot.
You don't.
In West Virginia, look, they also had him with Keegan Trost as well from Wake Forest and Dominic Judice from Michigan. So they've got some.
It's a very highly ranked transfer class at this point.
It is a very good transfer class. And what I think is interesting, they only have 14 outgoing transfers. They do lose. Jaron Sensenball was a cornerback that they did lose in the portal recently after the bowl game. There's a 5-day portal window that opens after the bowl game that any player can enter after you participate in your bowl game. I think there was a couple of like other walk-ons and people who entered, but like Sensenball was probably the only one of note entered there. He did commit to NC State as well, so he will no longer be on the team. But only 14 outgoing transfers for
which is crazy.
Mizzou.
Which is crazy because people are like, "Oh my gosh, these players are leaving," and then if you look at the rest of the SEC and the amount of we're like the bottom 4. One of them is Texas, so they're still playing, and they actually have 9 players. So I mean, it's kind of we're below average in the amount of players that are leaving, and I think you kind of have to credit the staff for that as well. Because I was talking to, I think an Iowa fan, and we were talking about the staff and like what I feel about the staff, and I'm like, players want to play for Drink. They like him. If they're getting the playing time that they need and they're being reassured that they're going to get it, they at this point haven't wanted to leave. And like I said, that's credit to what the staff is doing.
100%, and I think that's a big thing. And look, again, towards the Texas point, when they lose, they will have 5 days. Their portal will open for 5 days for players to enter the portal. No one can enter the portal right now by rule, but they'll have 5 days once Texas loses or wins the national championship, I guess, to enter the portal. That's when we could see a mass exodus. You could see probably, I think it's a lot of people assume their starting quarterback's not going to be their starting quarterback next year, whether that's the draft or whether that's tampering offers that we've heard have come out about them. We'll have to see, but they'll have a lot more. I do think when the dust all settles, Missouri will be one of the low teams in terms of players lost. And in terms of productive snaps out of the players, like, I mean, not a lot of guys played a lot of snaps to the left, right? Like Quan Lacey, I mean, there's some potential that you don't like to see leave. Obviously, like a Jalen Brown, Aiden Glover, Williams Winery, like those stink to see leave. Courtney Crutchfield as well, but not a lot of snaps are leaving this team, which is again, as you mentioned, Maggie, a testament to the staff, a testament of kind of what they've built at the University of Missouri to keep them all together. But all right, let's wrap up with your questions that you have for us here, Maggie. Okay. I know you had crafted up some of these season end questions, so let's get into them.
Okay, so my first one, which I was trying to like just think of things that didn't have anything to do with the portal, kept it a little light. So I want to know what your favorite Mizzou memory was from 2024, and it doesn't have to be you attending a game or anything like that. Just like
I do think I was thinking about this. I was like, I don't think this is going to be anyone's answer. I actually really enjoyed the Vanderbilt game. I know that it was like so frustrating, but I think now that we have the benefit of hindsight of like Vanderbilt, a pretty decent, it ended up being a pretty decent team. They won a bowl game.
They won their bowl game.
You can't say that for a lot of other SEC schools.
You sure cannot.
But they won their bowl game, and they ended up having a pretty darn good year with a pretty salty quarterback. Missouri in double overtime. I was at that game. That was the one Mizzou game outside of the bowl game that I went to this year in Columbia, and I could just remember laughing to myself just the whole like on the way home. I was like, "What in the world did I just watch?" Both teams missed a combined 5 field goals. It was ridiculous. Diego Pavia doing Diego Pavia stuff where he's just ridiculous things, busted coverages. And I just remember laughing to myself as we were driving on the way home. I'm just like, what was that football game? But as I look back, it is a fond memory. After Alabama beats Vandy, you could be like, well, who did beat Vandy? Mizzou did. Because a lot of people were cutting Mizzou flack for beating them in double overtime. But
we dropped 4 spots in the AP.
We did drop 4 spots in the AP. Maybe that's also my favorite Mizzou memory, is them after losing, not falling at all, but after winning, getting tanked in the polls. That was a fun memory as well.
You gotta love it. That game was a little bit it was different for me as everybody probably remembers. I took my dad to that game, first
That's
Mizzou
right.
game I've ever taken my dad to as like an alum and all of this stuff. And it was a highly stressful game. I remember I got home and somebody had went and gotten me some Casey's pizza because they knew how stressed I was gonna be. And the Casey's pizza was waiting for me at home. And if our listeners know, well, first off, you can't get Casey's Pizza in St. Louis. I mean, I think there's one in like North St. Louis, but the rest of them are obviously just like rural Missouri, or there's some over in Illinois. So somebody went and brought me some pizza, Casey's Pizza from rural Illinois, because I was just drained. I was like emotionally drained from the Vanderbilt game. Luckily, we came out on top, obviously, but I have two. I think one of mine is definitely, like I said before, that it was probably going to involve Brady Cook, and it does, and it's the Auburn game. It's the Auburn homecoming game, because how can you not love an epic your quarterback went to the hospital and then came back, led you were down, led you back to win the game on his last homecoming. Like it's like it's storybook ending type of thing. So love the Auburn game. And then I have to say Oklahoma, because first off, everybody knows how the Oklahoma Missouri thing has been in the off season, like really the past almost 2 years now. Them coming to the SEC, we all know how things were in the Big 12 and the Big 8. We just got dominated by Oklahoma, and I think just kind of being like, welcome to the SEC, and then beating them in the fashion with the scoop and score. It was just great. That was an exciting one. So I think those two were probably my favorite.
Looking back at that game and thinking about that game is so funny because like I was fully anticipating a game to end with like 10, like I guess 12 total points. I was like, this game's gonna end like 9-3, and then they score 30 some odd points in the fourth quarter. I was like, what happened? Insane game. That was a really good game.
Yeah. Okay, and this one is a little bit, because obviously we switched things over this year a little bit with it just kind of being me and you and bringing on guests.
Yep.
So I wanted to know who your favorite guest was that you had on.
Ooh, that's a.
I mean, we've had a lot of good ones. So
We have. Look, I know that the game didn't go, the way that we would have liked it to, but Billy Lucci, phenomenal guest, talking about the Ags there. Look, I think we only had one repeat guest.
Yeah. That's my favorite because I'm biased and he's like a good friend. But like, how can you not love Chris Marler? He's hilarious. He knows what he's talking about. He's obviously worked for Saturday Down South, LSU, South Carolina, like those teams. He has an intense amount of knowledge on the sport, and he's pretty unbiased in my personal opinion. He's an Alabama fan, but so his bias might be there, but we didn't really talk with him about Alabama. We had Clint Lamb on for that. So, no, I love having him on. I think he's hilarious. He has an intense love for Creed. Also, I think you have an intense love for Creed. So you could really bond over your love of Creed. But no, I had a lot of fun with them on, and I know how some people feel about the Oklahoma media guys, but I love Travis Davidson. I also think he's one of those guys who just knows a lot about the sport, knows a lot about his team. Really good dude. He came and tailgated with us before that game as well. So I really liked having him on too. And Billy will kill me if I don't say Billy. I like.
Yeah, Marler was the first one to come into my head. He's the only guy we had on twice.
I know. We'll probably have him on again next season.
Probably will. Probably have him on twice again next season.
But one of my favorite parts was whenever he made that comment about the Oklahoma, how Mizzou was going to kill Oklahoma, and obviously didn't kill them in the score because obviously Drew Pine started and it was a whole nother thing. But that clip was just one of my favorite clips that we played all season, and just the feedback that we got from it was amazing. So yeah, good times.
Is very good. The KC Sports Network Twitter account got a lot of messages for that one. Just collateral, right? Because like people will respond to it, and obviously it's KC Sports Network who's tweeting it out. But I can remember sitting in our office going through just all the messages or all the responses to it. Oh, good Lord! People got fired up about Marler's take, where she doesn't really care about it. Doesn't care about it.
He's not even
Missouri.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah,
I think he'd seen a lot of the the words exchanged back and forth
Yeah.
over the past year and a half. I think he was probably feeding the fire a little bit, but
We had Martin Rucker on this year too. That was a good
so
call.
great.
Martin
Chase
with
Kaufman was
Chase
on.
Kaufman, yes. Look, we just got to keep getting tight ends. Albert O.
I know.
Lock him
Who
down.
else we can get on?
Tommy Saunders. I think I've got his number. I think I could text Tommy Saunders. We can get him on.
If you listeners, if you're listening and there's any guests you want to see, shoot us a message.
Absolutely.
We'll see what we can do, because I've never met most of these people. I know Tucker's probably met them through the media side over in Kansas City, but a lot of them I haven't met either. So if you have a good idea, like, shoot it to us, and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely. Also, I mean, we had a couple of guests in the hopper, like, I guess thoughts of in the hopper, especially some good ones that we could have next year is what I'm trying to say. So that's, I guess you'll just have to wait around until next year to see what we come up with. So
season 4.
there you go.
Okay, here's my last thing I'm gonna ask you, and it's very, very, very early. Like, we're not even to the Super Bowl. We're not even to the national championship yet. So this is extremely early. But 2025 expectations. We open with 5 games at home, then a bye week, then another game at home. I don't love our schedule, but it just is what it is. Yes, but home game, Central Arkansas, Kansas, which will be massive. Mr. Brightside's going to go crazy at that Kansas game. You got Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, and Bama, who we're starting with. Then obviously it's just opposite. So we've got Vandy. We also have Texas A&M and Mississippi State at home. Sorry, and then we have Vandy, Auburn, OU, and Arkansas on the road. So kind of, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions? Are we at the point where we're allowed to predict 9 to 10 wins a season, or are we still, I don't know yet. It's got to get the feel for it.
There's a lot of unknowns going into this season too. You look at on paper, again, this offense should be pretty darn good. They obviously return Marquise Johnson, but then they're bringing in a lot of good talent in the portal and good freshman talent as well. I don't necessarily think that the freshman will start right away, obviously, but I mean, Donovan Dubele is going to be one of those guys that you might have a hard time keeping him off the field in terms of wide receivers, especially with how kind of things developed in the portal. I don't think the team necessarily anticipated Courtney Crutchfield to hit the portal, so I think that's going to be one where there could be some opportunity there for some guys to step up, and we got to see some wide receivers in the Music City Bowl that maybe we didn't anticipate seeing. Yeah,
Press Johnson played.
Yep, that was great to see. I think there was one guy out there. I said, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who I don't know who 85 is. I couldn't tell you. But like we were getting down to that point there. But I do think the way their schedule's lined out is weird. 6 straight home games, right, Maggie? I believe
it's brutal. Yeah, and 5, then a bye, then Bama.
5.
So yeah, but I mean, it's 6 straight home games.
You don't leave home for technically 7 weeks with the bye week put in there. At least that could be tough later on in the season. That could be tough. But look, the way the SEC has it laid out with, like, you just play the schedule and you flip it, right? Like, that's a lazy way to do it. I think they should have kind of like realigned it this year as well. Nevertheless, I do think Missouri's got a good opportunity to win 10 games. I think that should probably be the expectation when you kind of comes down to it. Losing 3 games, like, you'll have to see what Alabama is with Milroe declaring for the draft, what their quarterback situation looks like, what they're going to look like, all that after the portal settles and everything. For them, it would be interested to see kind of what they decide offensively. Do they go after Ryan Grubb? Do they get a guy like that? That'll be interesting to see. John Mateer is going to be the quarterback at OU. He was the highest rated quarterback in the portal. They land him. Obviously, the offensive coordinator from Washington State as well is now at OU. So I think Oklahoma could have a breath of fresh air when it comes down to it. A&M, like, who knows what A&M's going to come down to? Again, it's going to be.
Don't forget, you're on the road against Vanderbilt, who has a returning Diego Pavia because of whatever new thing that I don't know if that's going to apply to all players or if somehow only Diego Pavia is going to get that. I think they opened a can of worms with that, to be honest with you. But I mean, that game could be a little bit scary if they're holding this past game, as like a chip on their shoulder a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I could see us at 8 to 9 wins. 10, I think, is going to be really hard, but not unattainable.
Yeah, the Kansas game is going to be insane. Like, that'll be awesome. I'm excited for that one. I'm going to do everything in my power to be there for that one. Because that is a renewing of a rivalry, especially with Jalen Daniels. He will be the quarterback for them as well. They do love him there. Oh, Central Arkansas is going to be the other one. Cool. South Carolina, also a very salty team. Like that team is
And
been really good.
They're returning a lot.
Yes. So I mean,
Arkansas is returning Taylon Green as well at quarterback. I think there's a lot of players that are coming back for some of these, games that were competitive. And it could be, it could come down to how good Prebula is, because we don't necessarily know yet.
Yep. And I think that's kind of where we're at again, is the quarterback play. Quarterback play is going to kind of dictate a lot of this. I think up in the air, you're looking at, let's see, surefire wins that I feel good about certifying. Central Arkansas. I'm close to certifying. I thought about certifying in Kansas when we're there.
At home, I feel like they're going to be so, why?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not gonna certify it yet. Maybe later I'll certify it, but not right now. Not right now. I won't certify it. Louisiana, it's a certified. UMass, it's a certified. That's 3 already. Oh, at
Mississippi State at home, I think.
Yeah, I'll certify that one. At Arkansas, it's close. It's close.
It's hard to certify a lot of these.
So you're looking at 4 for sure wins. You'll probably beat Vanderbilt at the new. Their stadium's going to be done, right? It's not going to be an active construction zone anymore.
I actually don't know the answer to that question. It should be done. So
remember when they went there last year, and they had to dress in trailers?
Oh yeah,
they've
got to be done. We're going to be at 2 years at this point.
Yeah, yes, I hope so. Auburn might be a tough one at Auburn.
They could be better for sure.
Yeah,
they could be a lot better.
Well,
OU could be a lot better, and they're gonna be coming for revenge
at OU too.
I've already bought my Airbnb, so
I've thought about going.
I mean, I got a 6-person Airbnb. I don't know. I just did it. As soon as they announced the schedule, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the Airbnb prices while they're still low," because these Airbnb people don't pay attention, so they're not immediately getting on there and changing their price. So I'm like, get on there and get my Airbnb now. So I can cancel it up until the week of or something. So.
Yeah, that's a great call, actually. No, that's one. I think I might try to go to that. Looking at the schedule, that might be the road game I try to go to. Honestly, they were so close to making this schedule. I think the Oklahoma should be the last game of the season for Mizzou, not Arkansas. I know they've done that for the last however many years Mizzou's been in the SEC. They made the last game of the year, but let me look at Arkansas' schedule real quick. And LSU should be the last game of the season. Yeah, they almost did it there too. LSU is their third to last game of the season. So you can easily make it happen, but
yeah, I don't care either way. The good thing about the Arkansas game is that typically it's always that weekend right after Thanksgiving. Now, obviously, we played it on a Sunday on a Saturday this year, but we've been playing it on the Friday. So the close proximity does make it a little bit easier for fans to travel back and forth. So I do like that, because it's from me here in St. Louis, I think it's 7.5 hours to Norman. Driving. I mean, that's decent. It's not as bad from Kansas City, obviously, but it's a little. I mean, I'd probably fly, to be honest with you.
Norman, from where I'm sitting right now, is 5 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad. Well, yeah. So then add another 3-ish hours.
3.5, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got. So, I mean, I understand that, because most people are at home on Thanksgiving or want to be at home, so it's hard to get people to travel. But I also think that eventually they'll change that, and they'll put OU as
yeah.
Or yeah, because they're never going to make Texas, because Texas is always going to be at the state fair. So I could see them changing that for sure.
I think that makes the most sense. It's 3.5 is what I'm looking from where I stay right now to Arkansas. I didn't know it was that close. I actually try to go to that.
Oh, yeah.
I just got back from Branson, and golly, the amount of Arkansas stuff that's down there in Branson is sickening. I went to Lids at the Tanger outlets there to try to see what Mizzou hats they had. Had one. They had one Missouri hat, and they had all kinds of Arkansas stuff there. I thought, this is ludicrous. We
Well,
are
that's why
in Missouri.
people say that it's not like a rivalry unless you've lived in Southwest Missouri, because I've lived in Southwest Missouri and everybody is either Mizzou, Oklahoma, or Arkansas. So, I mean, I still get texts all the time from my Arkansas friends whenever they're playing. I get it if you live outside, you might not understand it, but if you're down there, it 100% there's a rivalry down there.
Yep. Any other questions? Is that it?
No, that was all. That's all that I had.
Well, cool. We are on the countdown already to look, SEC Media Day will be here before you know it. In terms of all that happening. That's in July. It's already January. That's like what, 5 months away, 6 months away. So that's gonna do it for season 3 of Mizzou That's Who. We'll be back with more Mizzou news as needed. If something deserves a podcast, we'll obviously back for it. But you won't be getting your weekly podcast from us. You'll be just getting it every now and again until the season starts up. So for Maggie Johnson, I'm Tucker Franklin. We will catch you guys next year.